Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, did you ever hear the one about the man who murdered lizards? He was a cold-blooded killer. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Lizard Wizard from Forbidden Games. In Lizard Wizard from Forbidden Games, 2 to 6 players take on the role of various archmages as they travel the land of Astoria, trying to find various wizards to recruit to their cause. The game board consists of various spaces for cards that will be used during the game, as well as a spot for the reagents, whose price will be manipulated throughout the course of the game. Now, there are a number of reagents. These are different kinds of ingredients that are used in magical spells. Players are going to select a couple of those to start with. You're also going to have mana, which is your currency in the game, kind of your magic ability during the game that you're going to spend like currency, as well as various victory points that you may be able to acquire. Now, on a player's turn, there's potentially 6 actions that they can do. The first thing they can do is attempt to gather reagents. You gather reagents by playing one of your starting reagent cards. Essentially, this allows you to grab 3 of the reagents from the top part of the card, and you may have possibilities to grab more later on, but you take those reagents into your own supply. Now, at the bottom are a number of other reagents, and these reagents, their prices are essentially going to go up on the kind of the stock market part of the board, so you can see how much they are going to cost in mana. Now, you also have the ability on your turn to take whatever reagents you have and turn them into the general supply in exchange for the price of whatever they're at on the stock board, but then they go down by the number of reagents that you sold back to the supply. Now, you have an option to recruit a wizard. Now, you're going to have the wizard decks come out. You're going to have 2 wizards that are going to come out of the wizard deck on the board. And you can essentially say, I want that wizard. But it's not that fast. What you have to do is engage in a bidding war. You say how much you'll bid, the next person how much they'll bid, and you go up and you all bid for that specific wizard. Now, if you win the wizard, of course you take it and that's your turn. But if you lose and somebody else claims that wizard, then you can take a second action. Now, you have a deck of spells on the board and 4 face-up spells. You can go ahead and pay the mana cost to take one of those spells and add that to your supply, but it goes face down because you have not yet cast that spell. That will come later. You can attempt to build a tower. You build a tower by looking at the tower deck. There's 1 card face up, and you can use whatever reagents or victory points it requests in order to buy that tower for your own personal play area. Now, this is important because if the tower's school of wizardry matches a wizard's school of wizardry, then they're going to be worth victory points together at the end of the game. Finally, you can summon a familiar, and there's different things a familiar can do. First of all, a familiar can go into the dungeon. Now, there is a dungeon deck of cards, and how that works is you essentially can draw the first dungeon card. If it's a treasure, great. That's what you want, and you can keep drawing, and hopefully you just keep drawing treasure. However, if you draw a monster card, that's 1 hit. Now, you take 2 hits, so you can decide, do I just want to take my treasure and walk away, or do I want to keep going? Now, if I keep going and I get a second hit, then I am out and I lose all of my treasure. And your treasure, of course, can be the victory points that you're going to get, and they can be other fun and interesting things. Now, you can go ahead and actually score the familiar card. Essentially, you look at any of the towers or the wizards that have the same school as that familiar card, and if you do, then you can gain 1 gold, which is a victory point for everyone that matches. Familiars will also have reagents, a number of reagents that you can just draw directly from the supply if you take that familiar. And you can also do new research. Essentially, when you do new research, you clear all the spells out of the spell face-up spells. You place 4 new face-up spells, and then you get to just draw one of those face-up spells for yourself. Now, when you gather the reagents, you actually can go ahead and cast one of your spells. You have to spend the price of the spell, but that is one of those times where you can actually put one of your spells face up, and it's now working. Now, when you do new research and you get that spell at that same time, you can also cast the spell, but you still have to pay for it. Now, if you select the cast spells action from a familiar, you can do as many spells as you want to cast. So players are going around and around. They are recruiting wizards, they are building towers, they are recruiting familiars, they are buying spells and then casting spells. They're doing this at the same time as they're manipulating the reagents, their prices. They are hopefully collecting them and then selling to get a good price for them to get more and more mana in their supply. Now, as soon as any one of the main decks, the tower deck, the spell deck, the familiar deck, the wizard deck, once they are all completely depleted, once all the cards in that deck are gone, then you finish that round and then you move to scoring. Now, there are a number of achievements, and you're trying to play for those achievement tiles. If you gain one of those achievement tiles, it's worth 10 victory points during scoring. Now, every wizard card and tower that are paired, as I say, they're going to be worth 10 points. Separately, they're worth less points, so ideally you want to pair those towers and wizards so that you can get the maximum points available for them. Now, spell cards that have been cast, if their school matches a pair of matched tower and wizard cards, then they too are worth 5 points. Any gold coins you have are equal in victory points to the printed number on that gold coin. Some spells represent victory points if they have been cast. Now also too, depending on who has the most and the second most treasures from a dungeon, they too will also gain more points at the end of the game. And as I say, any of those achievement tiles are worth 10 points. You go ahead, you add up all the points together, and whoever has the most victory points wins. Lizard Wizard. So Lizard Wizard is from Forbidden Games, and they came out a few years ago with a game called Raccoon Tycoon, and I never played that, and it was kind of one I always wanted to play, but I never got a chance to. And this is, what I understand, it's kind of similar to that, but I can't say how much because I haven't played that other one. First of all, and the artwork and stuff, you got kind of anthropomorphic, animals and stuff, and that's never been something that's thrilled me thematically. It's just not my cup of tea. Fantasy, fantasy is a tricky thing for me because I do really like some fantasy games and others it kind of falls flat. And that's not just gaming, like fantasy books. And I mean, I devoured science fiction, but fantasy I was always kind of, some I like, some I don't. I was never as big on fantasy as I was on science fiction. And like I say, books, movies, and now games. So, the good people at Forbidden Games, they reached out and they asked if I want to review it. And I said, well, yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it. But when I got the game and I looked it over, I'm like, well, okay, we'll see what happens. We'll see if it's any good. And so I was down at George and Holly's, and we played it, and Mark was there, and the four of us, we played this game. Normally, I don't like bidding. I'm not a big fan of a bidding mechanic generally. Sometimes in some games it works, but overall, to me, bidding kind of takes me out of the game a little bit. And in this game, there is a bidding. There is that bidding for the wizards, but it kind of worked for me here because I liked the idea of the thematically these wizards were battling, and whoever uses the most magic is going to win. And I did kind of get a kick out of that thematically, and I did enjoy the bidding in this game. I kind of like the dungeon. You can actually kind of play this little push your luck game in the middle of it. That was fun. Although I must confess, I kind of wonder points-wise whether it's worth it to do that or to go after some of the bigger scores like the wizards or the towers or whatever. But it's fun. I like a push your luck mechanic, and I thought it was fun here. I liked it. I like the familiars in general because they gave you a lot of different things you could do. You could do the new research, or you could just try to score the familiar card, or get reagents, and cast spells. I really liked how they gave you a lot of options there. I thought that one was fun. And then the spells were cool. It was cool to see how quickly they'd come out, and they could move. If people played the familiars, they could be cleared. And again, the spells really are the spice and sugar, right? Because they're the stuff that kind of throws the monkey wrench. There's some take that with the spells, which I really liked. And I like mean games, and I liked what they could do to the game. I liked what they had to offer to the game. That was a fun part of the game for me. But the most fun part of the game for me is the manipulation, the stock manipulation of the reagents. I love that. I like that in any game, where if you've got too much of a commodity, the price goes down. If you don't have enough, it goes up. And here where it works, it's a little bit artificial where you just play the card and it goes up or down. But still, I like that. It was fun to kind of look, okay, I got a number of these. What are they at? Oh, they're really nice now. I hope nobody else sells before I sell. And then you sell, and it's like you make a killing, and then other people are like, ah. That's always a fun mechanic in games for me, and I thought it was a lot of fun here. That's probably the part of the game that kept me the most enthralled. This was a game that, I played it, and when I finished playing the game, I kind of thought, well, it was a good game. I liked it. But then immediately that night and the next day, I was thinking, I think I really liked that game. I think it was a lot more fun than maybe I thought it was. And to me, that's one of the ultimate marks of a good game is, are you still thinking about it? Is it a game where you're thinking, I could have done that, or I could have done this, or hey, I wonder that, or you're just thinking, man, I really had fun doing that. So I ended up really liking Lizard Wizard. I thought it was a lot of fun. Lizard Wizard was kind of an unexpected surprise for me. I wasn't expecting to like this game nearly as much as I did. And so despite my initial kind of reservations, I'm prepared to say I'm going to give it a buy it recommendation. I think if you like kind of engine building games, point engine building games, which is what this is, if you like those systems and you like variety, because it seemed like there was always something to do, there was always an action you could take that you wanted, that would do something fun and interesting, which is another good mark of a game. I think you'll like this one. I think you'll get a kick out of it. So recommendation for Lizard Wizard is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and fun things like that. And I'd also ask you to give us a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot as well. Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear about that wizard who could only control reptiles? They called him the Salamancer.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
To the Southwest Pacific Theater, down to Papua New Guinea.
Ooh, good shot.